Hello, everyone. It's the September school holidays. I know for many students, it's hardly a break because it's end of the year exams coming soon. Especially for those who are taking PSLE, this is the last dash towards the finishing line. How are you feeling as parents? My daughter just did her PSLE last year, so I can relate to your experiences. As a parent and professional counselor, I hope to share some insights and tips with you on how to support your child through this critical period. Many of you might have taken leave from work to spend time revising with your children these few months, or maybe you increase the frequency and money spent on tuition, or perhaps you give up your own free time and leisure activities, or maybe all of the above and more. Take a moment to think why the PSLE is so important to you as a parent. How is this communicated to your child? When your child observes all the behaviors that show how much you emphasize PSLE, how are they interpreting it? We have come across children who think that their parents won't love them anymore if they don't do well for PSLE. I'm serious, not trying to scare you, but every year when PSLE results are released, we hear of some children who don't dare to go home, or they might even think it's the end of their lives just because of their results on one exam at 12 years old. Sad, isn't it? How did we as adults unknowingly give children such an impression that the PSLE is everything? I know there is a lot of emphasis placed on PSLE because it determines which secondary schools your child can go to. But let's not forget, it's just one of the many milestones in their growing years. That's why the title of my sharing is Supporting Your Child Through PSLE and Beyond. Don't let the exam itself blind you from seeing the other needs of your child. So we need to open our eyes to the fact that at just 12 years old, this is the first time they had to work so hard. Even when I did not set any goals, targets for my daughter and just told her to try her best. Throughout the whole year, I could see that she was feeling the pressure from school. And I was surprised because it's a neighborhood school. Amidst the tons of homework that she had every weekend, even from the beginning of her P6 year, she didn't even have tuition. It was just the school homework, and I could see like, whoa, it's so much more compared to all the previous 5 years in her primary school. I often hear her grumbling about how tired she is, or sometimes even saying that she feels stressed, she can't sleep. And there was one time I remember I was washing dishes in the kitchen, and she just walked up to me. I thought like, one of those random things that she wanted to tell me. And she said in a very sad tone, I don't want PSLE to come. So naturally, I thought maybe it's just fear of the exams, right? And she continued, because after that, we will all go to different schools. At that point, it dawned on me. It's not just the stress of PSLE exams. The whole situation means a lot to them because it also implies they're going to leave the school they have been so familiar with for 6 years. They are no longer able to spend time together with all their favorite friends that they have formed strong bonds in the past 2 years, at least, being in the same class. So it's also about dealing with losses and dealing with that mindset change that, oh, I'm no longer a primary school kid going to secondary school. What does it mean to be a teenager? How will it be like in secondary school when I really don't know what to expect? So I hope all of you watching this will be able to take a step back from the overemphasis on the exam itself and see the real significance of your role as parents at this stage of your child's life. So throughout the year, as your child work hard, what are they learning about themselves, about goal setting, about putting in effort? What are they learning about stress management and self-care? When they face difficulties, how can they practice staying calm and giving their best in that moment? As a parent, are you guiding them in learning these life skills beyond answering their exam questions? And later this year, when they get their PSLE results, no matter what the outcome is, help them learn that, well, yeah, sometimes our hard work pays off. We get the results that we want, we celebrate it. But other times we may be disappointed by the outcomes. How do we grow from overcoming such setbacks? So for my daughter, for the P6 prelim, she got AL17, and she was telling me that she want to aim for AL12 for the actual PSLE. In the end, she got AL14, just missing the cutoff for the school that she wanted to go to. She was disappointed and obviously moody, sad for days after. Even when the time came to select her secondary schools, she was still sounding quite negative when I asked her about which school she was thinking of and tried to understand why. I reminded myself to be understanding, not to react to her negativity. She's not purposely trying to be difficult, being rude. It's just her emotions all being quite a roller coaster. Eventually, we submitted her choices for school, and she got into the first school on our list, even though that wasn't her original plan at first. Then, as we approached the first day of school in January, I hear her grumbling again. I don't even know anyone in my class. I don't know who else is going to the same school, even if they're in the same school. Like, I know they're not in my class because the class list is out already. I don't even like the uniform, the color so weird. So I just tried to acknowledge how she felt, told her that, hey, it's normal to miss your primary school friends. It's normal to feel anxious when you're going into a new environment. Even for adults, that's how we feel every time we change jobs and go into another company. And fast forward to today, she's happily adjusted in her secondary school. And last week, I can't remember why, but out of the blue, she just suddenly said, actually, nobody cares about PSLE score now. Oh, easy for her to say, right? After going through it already. When you approach the PSLE and the P6 milestone from this angle, every step of the way, you'll have a chance to guide your child to learn and grow from their experiences. This is way more meaningful and valuable for their whole life. So, parenting at this stage is not about telling our children exactly what to do. It's not about controlling them using threats and punishments. We want to build intrinsic motivation in them so they learn to see the value of what they are doing and they want to do it for themselves, not for us. Just like this image you see on screen here, you can use all your strength to try and pull your children up the mountain. But if they don't have that intrinsic motivation, it's going to be super hard for you. You might collapse from exhaustion because they're not putting in any effort to move up the mountain. They're not helping themselves because they don't see the point. Or worse, they might choose to pull the opposite direction, and then the tension will cause the rope to break. On the other hand, if we work on their intrinsic motivation, help them to find their own reason why they want to go up the mountain, at what pace they want to go up the mountain. If they need your help, they'll be more willing to work together, and eventually you'll find it easier to pull them up the mountain because they are willing to do it for themselves. Here's an easy way to remember how to build intrinsic motivation in our children or in anybody, even for adults. Focus on A for autonomy, B for bond and relationship, and C for competence. Now, I say it's easy to remember in terms of ABC. I didn't say it's easy to do, okay? Parenting is never easy. That's a reality. We got to put in effort. Sometimes we often, not sometimes, very often, we don't see the results of our efforts immediately. And more importantly, we need to put effort in the right areas. So from psychology research, they have studied the people who are motivated and successful in life. And they found these are the key ingredients. People who are successful and motivated to do well, they are given autonomy to decide and choose what they want to do and even how they want to do it. And they feel bonded, they feel supported by relationships they have in their lives, and they feel competent. The sense of competence that they can think to themselves, I can do this. Even if they might not have all the necessary knowledge and skills at the moment, they have the belief that they're able to learn, they're able to progress and improve and eventually get there. How do we cultivate these ingredients in our children? I know as adults, there may be a lot of responsibilities that we're juggling every day. So we may have expectations and goals in so many different areas. But we got to be realistic. We only have one life. There's only 24 hours a day. And every day, there's only so much mental and physical energy that we're going to have. We can't possibly see everything as absolutely equally important and try to meet all the expectations. So we have to find a balance that works, something that works uniquely for you, for your family. Don't blindly follow what other people are saying or doing. Adapt to your current situation, adapt to your child's personality, readiness, and interest. If they don't see the importance of studies at this point, there's no way you can force them to like improve by a few grades just because it is an important year, an important exam that everybody else can see the relevance. You can't, readiness is not something that you can force, but you can continue to build their motivation in different aspects of their lives. And eventually they will find something worth doing and you will see how they blossom when they are ready. As your child grows older, they will want more autonomy, more space to be themselves, not just take your instructions. Give them choices whenever possible. Give them room to make some mistakes as long as the consequences are not dangerous or disastrous. Let them learn from the natural consequence of their choices. That's how they grow. So throughout the P6 year, I didn't even tell my daughter what AL she should be aiming for. She learned about the AL system through the school briefings, and somehow she started setting goals for herself based on what she was getting in each test. She aimed for improvement in the next test. I guess the teachers were like all gearing them to think in terms of like AL and like how many points you need to improve in order to get to the next better AL level. When it came to secondary school selection, I didn't even tell her which schools to look at. I only asked her like, do you want to look through the school info together or do you prefer to check it out yourself? Because nowadays the kids are also savvy with the computer and internet. They can easily find out what's about information about the school and what's interesting. I let her decide in which order she wanted to list the schools in her submission. Only checking with her to see if she considered things like travel time and the CCAs available in the school. In order to maintain such a balanced view, you need to slow down sometimes. Otherwise, we can easily be so caught up in what other people are saying and expecting, we're not aware what's actually going on within ourselves or within our children. So we need to manage our own stress, which is my next point. Very often, we tend to react based on our own anxiety and stress without trying to understand the other person's position. And that just makes everything worse because who likes to be micromanaged, shouted at, scolded badly for a mistake, or being bossed around? We adults don't like to work for bosses who behave like that, right? So, what makes it okay for us to do that to our children? I'm not saying that I don't scold my daughter at all, but when I have more awareness, when I take care of my own stress, I do nag less and scold her less often. And I notice a difference. With less scolding, she takes initiative to share her thoughts with me so I can understand her better. She will initiate and want to do things together, want to spend time together. That's how we remain connected even through the teenage years. When we manage our own stress well, we will have more space in our heart and our mind, and we can truly listen to understand. Too often we listen with the expectation that, oh, okay, in our mind, we're already thinking, oh, how to solve the problem? Okay, what advice am I going to give to my child? No, 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 no. So active listening is really about putting aside our own agenda and trying to connect, trying to understand where the other person is at. Especially as children grow into their teenage years, the kind of support they need from us is not direct helping and problem solving. They really want more listening and more understanding from us. When children feel connected to you, they will ask you for advice when they want it. When the children don't feel connected to you, no matter how good your advice is, it's just going to fall on deaf ears. So focus on building that bond. Just like at work, we can learn to agree to disagree, right? It's impossible for everyone to have the same ideas, same opinions all the time. So being your child doesn't mean they have to agree with you on everything. Now, try this the next time you find there's disagreement. You can say something like, I don't agree with your point, but I hear you and I understand this is how you see it. So, referring back to the point, the idea of autonomy, you can guide your child by showing them the factors to consider, but leave the own decision making to them as long as the outcome is not dangerous or disastrous. That's how they're going to learn. And if the outcome is really not as they hope in the end, refrain from saying, I told you so. Okay, because once we say that, it's going to stop them from thinking about what happened and reflecting on like what they can learn from the mistake. Okay, so hold back on saying such things, give them the space to think and to reflect. Because when we don't judge, then they feel safe. They feel safe to express whatever thoughts they have at that point of time. That's how they have room to reflect and grow. Now, this point helps them to build a bond with you and to feel competent. Think about this, at work, if your boss keep pointing out all your mistakes and how he thinks you're so inadequate compared to some of your other colleagues, why are you so lazy, not putting in enough effort? If you keep hearing that from your boss, you might just give up. Since he already thinks that way about me, what's the point of me trying? On the other hand, if your boss use positive approach like encouraging you, motivating you, highlighting the progress that you're making, no matter how small that progress may be, it is still a progress, and affirming your efforts, recognizing that you are trying, even when the results are not seen yet, you would likely feel more motivated to try and do better because of the support and the bond you feel from your boss. And because you can see your competence being built over time, step by step. The progress can come in small steps, but you see it, you get recognized for it. So, with that bond and competence, that helps you to naturally have the internal motivation to try harder, to do better. So, I know many of us are so used to pointing out mistakes and reacting when people don't behave the way we want. A good guide to keep in mind would be this ratio, 3:1 ratio. For every negative thing that you say to your child, try to have three other positive things to offset the negative effect. Okay, so it doesn't mean you have to after pointing out a mistake, then immediately come in with like, oh, but then you are so good in other areas. No, no, no. So it's an overall balance, like for example, throughout the day or throughout the week. Okay, so as long as you can see that then an overall balance of more positives, at least three positive things compared to each negative thing that you're saying, then that can help to balance out the effects on your child. And the last point is actually to focus more on learning, the process of learning, instead of just focusing on the outcome and results. People who live their lives chasing outcomes, they're not happy in the long term. Whatever good feelings they get from a positive outcome is going to be only temporary. They feel, yay, I got it. Then what's next? What's the next outcome I need to chase? And if the outcome is not good, their mental health can be severely affected because they have learned to define their whole self worth based on the outcome, which is really not healthy. Even if your child can ace their exams in school because they put in so much effort, later on in adult life, there's sure going to be some situations where outcome is not going to be what they expected because there are so many other factors that affects what happens. So if you can teach them from young, a lot of our life habits and thinking patterns actually start from young. So if your children can adopt a growth mindset where they focus on learning from the process, okay, that is going to be way more valuable than focusing on academic results. It will help them for sure in long-term success and life satisfaction, no matter what kind of challenges they face. So here's a summary. This is how to cultivate the ingredients for intrinsic motivation. Use a balanced approach, manage your own stress, listen to understand, encourage, motivate, and affirm, focus on the learning process and personal growth. So I hope that was useful for you. If you need individual support for the areas that I have covered, do reach out to me via WhatsApp or email. You can also visit my website, wellnessjourney.sg, and follow my social media from there. Thank you for listening. Take care.